Yeah, okay. So, as mentioned, my name is Jesper Wiklund and I'm CEO of Klaria. So, Klaria was founded in 2012 and the company has been listed on the stock market since 2016 here in Stockholm. We have a patented and proprietary technology platform which forms the basis of all of our drug development. And I will be telling you about that platform today. We have two late-stage assets in the company that are the key drivers of value in our company right now, simply due to the fact that they are the furthest advanced and the closest to the market. We have a number of pipeline assets that are earlier, that are also very exciting from a commercial point of view and from a medical point of view, but they're earlier, so I will focus today on the two late-stage assets, which are sumatriptan, which is a treatment for migraine, and cannabis, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's marijuana cannabis, and in these two, we are formulating both of these products into the film. With sumatriptan as a treatment for migraine, our projections, and we'll go more into detail about those projections, but our market projections for the sales potential of our compound, of our product in the United States and in the sort of 7 or 8 countries in Europe that pay premiums for medicines, reaches $250 million in peak sales potential for our molecule. So that's not the market, but that's our molecule. For cannabis, we are launching into $1 billion. Well, there are multiple markets in cannabis, but each one of them is worth billions of dollars. So both of these assets are addressing very significant markets and have very significant sales potential. Very importantly, I recently joined the company. I joined the company in November of last year, and as I was getting to know this company and as I myself was trying to understand the technology and evaluate the technology, I took a lot of comfort into the fact that Klaria has already a partnership with Mundipharma, which is a global big pharma player that has thousands of scientists, people who are working for them, who are obviously, highly educated professional people with close to unlimited resources in terms of what they have at their disposal to evaluate possible collaboration partners. And they, after having surveyed the entire world really for the best drug delivery technology for their products that they had an intention of developing, they chose Klaria. And they chose Klaria after having done a very thorough due diligence where they had a team of 15 people come over here to Sweden to go through everything, to look at everything, to look at the patents, look at the technology, the manufacturing, all the clinical and preclinical data that has been gathered to date. So what I'm getting at is this is a very strong validation. And for myself, and I imagine all of you, as we try to understand a company, you can look at the homepage, you can maybe look at some analyst reports, you can look at a few different things, but really it's very hard to really understand, does this company do what they say they do? Can they actually deliver on the technology that they have? And the fact that an international pharmaceutical company has actually come to that conclusion after having had their team of experts looking at this company for months and months gave me, and I believe should give all of you, great comfort that this is in fact a technology that really has, very strong legs, and it's a technology that actually does what it says it does. We also have commercial validation through these films, which I handed out to you, or to many of you previously. We'll get to them in a second. These films are for sale in Swedish pharmacies, and they're formulated with vitamins. So this company, Nutrinovate, is a licensee of our technology. So it's our exact same technology, but rather than, as we do, formulating pharmaceuticals into these films, our licensee, Nutrinovate, has formulated vitamins into these films. And we consider this commercial validation in the sense that this actually shows that you can manufacture these things, you can package them, ship them, distribute them, and sell them and make a good business out of it. And that's something that very few companies that don't actually have a product on the market, as we do not, but very few companies can actually say that, we know that this works as a business. But through our relationship with this company, we can actually make that claim. Okay. Just one more word about background, and then we'll get to the heart of the presentation. At the beginning of the year, last year, the company was led by Scott Boyer, who was the CEO. He's also a founder. He's the sort of the scientific heart and mind of this company. Over the course of last year, we expanded the management team to really help transition the company from being a science-driven, research-driven, development-driven company, which we still are, but actually helping us transition now to being a much more of a commercial company, which is the next stage that we're going into. And it's a stage that we also look forward to with, great enthusiasm. And so in addition to myself as the CEO, we also have added Scott DeMercado, who is as a business development, and he has focus on the cannabis business development primarily. And we also added Mark, and Mark is a professional in manufacturing, and he has over 20 years of manufacturing expertise in some of the leading companies in the world. And this manufacturing expertise becomes incredibly important the closer we get to the market, because if you survey the landscape of disasters in our industry, a very significant portion of them actually happened because there's something that went wrong with manufacturing. So we're taking manufacturing very, very seriously. We're getting the best possible people that we can. We're working with the best possible partners that we can to really try to make sure that we do everything right in manufacturing. And I myself I've been a CEO of a biotech company previously. I've also worked for an American private equity fund for the last 5 years. Scott DeMercado also has very significant experience in sales and marketing. So overall now we believe that we have a team together with Scott that is highly qualified and that can really help execute all of these plans that we have and for the future that I'm also going to tell you about. So let's get to how it works. So if you now, everybody take out this vitamin film that I handed out earlier, if you like. This is, again, it's nothing dangerous. It's vitamins that are being sold. So if you want to, you can go ahead and open it, and you can take out the film, and you see the film here, and you just put that film on the inside of your cheek like this. And I see that nobody's doing that, but if you want to do that, go ahead and do it. I think it's if you don't have one of your neighbors should, because I try to hand out as many as possible. Anyway, here's one. Do you guys want to try it? He wants to do it later. All right. Anyway, here, you can try these if you'd like. Let's hand those around. And the reason I'm handing these out is that it actually becomes very obvious as soon as you put this film into your mouth what the key benefit of this film is, and that is that it sticks to the mucosa, to the inside of your cheek. And this is pretty much the only substance in nature that actually sticks to the mucosa, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because one of the key purposes of the mouth is really to make sure that stuff doesn't stick to it, and then it actually goes down into the stomach, where whatever you put into your mouth, the purpose is to get it into your stomach. So things don't stick to the mouth or to the inside of the mouth. And that is the challenge when you're trying to achieve transmucosal delivery, because what you need is you need to have the film stick to the inside of the cheek and then stay there. And during this time that it stays there, there's a high concentration of drug in the film, and that concentration, that drug, transfers across the mucosa into the blood. And that is indeed what happens with our film. Now, what separates us from pretty much all other technologies that claim, because the idea of transmucosal delivery is not a new one. It's a very old idea, and it's an idea that has a lot of appeal because, for obvious reasons, if you can avoid the stomach, there are many, many benefits to that. But there are many other delivery technologies that have tried to do this, but they don't work. There are sprays, there are tablets that you're supposed to put under your tongue and leave them there, etc. And what happens with all of these other technologies is that you put them in your mouth and they mix with the saliva and they melt. And then so you have this little pool of melted substance in your mouth, and you might have it under your tongue for 5 or 10 seconds, but then you're going to swallow it. And that's just human nature. If something's in your mouth, you swallow it or you spit it out. I mean, those are the two kind of options you have. And so while you might get a very small proportion of the drug being transferred across the mucosa, the vast majority of all of these other technologies, the vast majority of that drug gets swallowed, and it actually becomes oral delivery. And that does not happen with our film. Those of you that took it, you can feel that it's still sitting here. And so what this allows us to do, and sort of the proof, in addition to the fact that we've convinced a big pharmaceutical company that we're actually able to do this, kind of the other proof that we're really able to do this is that we are actually focusing on putting molecules into our film that are not orally available, meaning if you swallow them, the body does not take them up, right? So if what I'm now telling you was not true, our entire strategy wouldn't work, right? So this is sort of the key thing to understand about our technology, and it's a pretty big claim, especially for a small company based in Sweden that today is not tremendously valuable, et cetera, but it really is, this is the key thing that you need to understand. And if you understand this, then our entire pipeline and the products that we have start to make sense. So let's now talk about the two products. Well, first, maybe I'll just a moment about our strategy, and then we'll talk about our two lead products. So given this feature that we have, that we actually achieve transmucosal delivery, we've then decided to focus on developing drugs where this feature results in the greatest benefit. Because if we create a lot of value, if we create a lot of benefit, our feeling is that patients will benefit from that, and we and our shareholders will also benefit maximally from that. So we look at the sort of addressable universe of compounds that we could put into this film, and we ask ourselves, first of all, are these today primarily or only used as an injection or a nasal spray? And if they are, you're sort of in this green zone here. And then you ask yourself, so we ask ourselves, is that a problem? Because sometimes it's not an issue. But where that is an issue, that's where we end up in our sweet spot. And this is where we want to focus our time, effort, and money and talent. And here we have the products that we have in our pipeline. We have adrenaline, which is for anaphylactic shock. We have midazolam for acute epilepsy. We have naloxone for opioid overdose. We have sumatriptan, which is a triptan. We have other triptans as well for migraine. And we have ketamine for acute pain and depression. Now, all of these are tremendously exciting. We only have 15 minutes here, so I've decided to focus on the two most advanced ones, which are the ketamine and also the cannabis, which is actually not on this slide because we've created a daughter company that addresses the cannabis opportunity. I'll tell you more about that in a second. But any of you want to learn more about this, you can either come talk to me afterwards, or you can also look at our homepage, and we have more information about all of these programs. We can skip that. Okay, so let's talk about sumatriptan for migraine. So as you may or may not know, but sumatriptan is an old molecule. It's been around for a long time. And there are a number of, there's a tablet, there's a nasal spray, and there's an injection self-injection pen. Those are the three ways that you can today use sumatriptan. And sumatriptan is the sort of first-line treatment for serious migraine. So why do we think that our film makes sense to develop in this context? Well, 80% of all of the patients that suffer from migraine also suffer from nausea. That means that you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you've got a migraine, you need to take your medicine. If you take a tablet with a glass of water, in 80% of the patients, it's quite likely that 20 minutes from now, you're going to throw that up. Or 10 minutes from now, you're going to throw that up. The throwing up part is not so bad. The bad part is you actually throw up all the medicine you just took a few minutes earlier. So, you're not getting any drug into your system and you're not getting any pain relief. So because of that, people then use nasal spray or the injection. The problem with the nasal spray is, and everybody who's ever taken a nasal drop, if you go on an airplane or something, you know this, you take a nasal drop, and actually what happens is a little bit of it it's supposed to be mucosal delivery because you have mucosa here in the nose, right? But what actually happens is some of it sort of passes by the mucosa, but most of it ends up falling back the back of your throat, and you swallow it, and you're back in the stomach again, right? So it's oral. And if you throw up, you've got the same problem. You're not getting drug on board. So then people take injections, but the problems with injections are many. I mean, it's nobody likes to take an injection. You have to shoot yourself in the thigh. It's never pleasant. It's not pleasant at 3 a.m. when you have a brutal headache. It's painful. You can get reactions at the injection site. You can get infections, etc., etc. It's in solution because it's a pre-injection pen. So the stability is not good because anything that's in solution has a shorter stability. So it becomes expensive. You got to have it in your fridge. You got to keep buying new ones. A bunch of problems. So this leads to this explains this statistic. 79% of all migraine sufferers have said that they're willing to try a new medication if there was one. I have 3 minutes. Okay, I got to go a little quicker here. So this is basically the situation that I'm describing. People bounce around. They can't find a drug that works for them. So this is what we call an unmet medical need, right? And we believe that our drug can really fill this need because it has basically all the advantages of an injection, meaning even if you throw up, it's not a problem, but it's not an injection, right? So if I move on, you can also please talk to me about this afterwards. We believe that this is going to be approximately a $250 million per year sales for our compound. And we believe that based on an analysis that we've done of the key territories in Europe and in the United States and considering the market dynamics. If I move on quickly to cannabis, as I said, we've created a separate daughter company that does this. To go through this, basically there are two ways to take cannabis today. You can smoke it or you can eat it. Smoking is the best in terms of having an effect that is fast, and also in terms of actually having a proportion of the drug that you take into your body sort of get out into your blood so you can have a medical effect. The problem with smoking is that it's very bad for you from a health point of view. It's illegal almost everywhere, and most people consider smoking no longer acceptable. It's socially stigmatized. So therefore, the entire cannabis industry, which is $1 billion industry in the United States and in Canada, think that edibles are the future. The problem with edibles is that it takes almost an hour before you get an effect. And the uptake is very different. So if you take, for example, a gummy bear, cannabis very often comes in gummy bears. You take a gummy bear 1 week, you get a certain effect. The next week, you might get a dramatically different effect, depending on what you've eaten, if you've slept, if you've not slept, because the stomach is just an incredibly sensitive organ. So again, here we have basically the best of both worlds. We have, and we've shown this in preclinical trials, we're now about to start clinical trials with this, but with our film, because we actually transfer across the mucosa and we don't go into the stomach, you get an effect in sort of 15 to 20 minutes. It's not as good as smoking, which is 10 to 15 minutes, but it's pretty darn close. And it's way, way better than eating, which takes up to an hour. And so we are now in advanced, or we are in discussions with a number of companies in the United States, in Canada, in Jamaica, in Japan, that are manufacturing and selling various marijuana formulations in the territories where this is legal and commonly accepted. And everybody that we speak to, they very quickly understand what we're saying, and we're meeting with a lot of enthusiasm. So we're very hopeful that we're going to be able to conclude some sort of agreement with one of these discussion partners and actually start manufacturing. And the beautiful thing from our point of view about this is, if you get into what's called the recreational segment, there's no regulatory hurdle, so you can just start making it and selling it. It's like making a vitamin. It's even less than making a vitamin. And so here we could be on the market in 2021. Very, very quickly. We did a lot of very important things, both from a corporate development point of view and from a pipeline point of view in 2019. So we did a lot of things. However, we didn't really tell anybody about that, and we're aware of that. So the stock market doesn't know about that. You don't know about that. And so therefore, our share price doesn't reflect it. But we did a lot, and we have a lot of plans for 2020. One of the key ones is the last one here, that we're going to get better about speaking to the stock market. This is the first presentation like this that I do. I've now joined, and I'm putting a great focus on telling our story to investors this year. We last week launched a new website that we hope will be much more illustrative and explanatory about what we're trying to do. We're also speaking much more with potential partners. So we think and hope that 2020 will be a year when we achieve a lot in terms of the operational side, and also hopefully that we achieve a lot in terms of our communication with shareholders in the stock market. So am I completely out of time? Yes. Okay. So we have 2 late-stage assets. One, if things go well, and we hope they will be ready for launch in 2022. It has a $250 million sales potential. That's an asset that should be worth the same amount when it's approved, 10 times what we're worth today. Similarly with cannabis, it's a $1 billion markets. We have a differentiated product which is patented and which is completely new, that we have great hopes for. So we hope between the 2 of these, there's going to be a very interesting journey for ourselves and our shareholders in the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jesper. You actually did very well in using up all your minutes.
Thank you.
So we don't really have time for Q&A here. I'm sure that there are lots of questions, though. But I'd like to congratulate you to be the first, I think, company that's ever been to BioStock Live that actually brought samples of your product.
Yeah. And
I know that Stefan from Endolab had a device with him, but that's not as easy to try out.
No.
So maybe in a year or so we can try it with some other compound inside it.
Yeah, if we need a doctor then to diagnose people and give prescriptions, but or if we do it in California, we could all try cannabis.
I'm all for going to California, so let's do that.
Okay.
A warm hand for Jesper. Thank you very much.
Thank you.